All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, September 6, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Really excited to get the new site updates too. If you're not a member, you might want to be one soon. It's going to be pretty awesome. Anyways, let's get into it here today. Markets here, a little bit of a slice, right? So what have I been saying for the last 5 days? 5 trading days, that is. If you lose, let's use the SPX. If you lose 4,500, really 4,490, this little pivot, you can. The great thing about the gamma squeeze, it looks great, but you don't build any supports, and you can slice it really quickly, just as quickly as you went down. In fact, and you can see we gap. Basically a gap and go to the downside today. We did come a little bit off the lows, but we did gap down. Little 1-2 pop there first 30 minutes. And then ISM came in like really hot, like way hotter than expected. You just keep getting these conflicting data points, right? ISM hot, labor market starting to crack. We'll talk about CPI in a minute when we look at crude. But lots of conflicting data here, but market obviously a little bit blindsided there. And it went down. You can tell I was kind of favoring this. We needed to test this area. We didn't quite get there. But again, you build no support and there's an air pocket, right? So big air pocket there. And we came down and sliced it pretty good. We did come off the lows, right? So closing right at 44.65. 44.50 was the gamma for the day. I talked about that on Twitter this morning. Said we could get as low as 44.35, and we almost got there. We got down to 44.42. They didn't quite, get that there. We didn't even quite get to this pivot. I would have felt a lot better about, like an intraday dip buy if we had pierced that. We didn't get there, but bottom line, bear showed up a little bit. As far as into the close, we did lose the 50 MA on the SPX. Again, not the end of the world, but we did close below that. We came off the lows, but it's not like, looking at 2 Fridays ago where, we really put in that nice test candle and closed green. It kind of left the door open for either, it could go either way tomorrow, right? So, yeah, we came off the lows nicely, but what I don't like is if we flip over to the Qs, this looks a lot more like kind of a bear wedge, right? So right there, and we went right into that pivot high. We bounced, and looking into the end of the day, not exactly a V shape, right? The spiders kind of looked a little bit more like a V shape. The banks did come nicely off the lows. Still not even really a V shape. Like we couldn't really get much above 446. If you look at the diamond, it's stalled out just above 345. The Russell, that's definitely not a V shape there. Again, kind of that same hourly type bear wedge type look. So the Qs and the Russell a little bit on the softer side coming out of the selling, but you can see as the volume kind of dried up, we did have decent volume today too, just under 70 million. It's not great. It's a little bit of an uptick. But again, it's still kind of, technically we're post Labor Day now, but still kind of that late summer-ish type feel. And you can see here as the selling picked up in the morning, heavy volume dried up, and we kind of floated higher. Now again, so tomorrow, again, it could kind of go either way. They kind of left the door open here. The triple Qs were down the most, though, and they needed to catch up to the downside. The bears needed to do that, and they did it via Apple. So Apple got smoked today, was down over 4% at one point, down 3.58 by the close. I think that probably still wants to test that 180 level, maybe even tomorrow there. We'll see how that plays out. And they did use Tesla to kind of offset it. Tesla only down 1.78. That pattern's still good. So if you're looking for a bull play, if the market holds up, I think Tesla is probably your best bet here. Again, it's kind of contingent on the market being able to continue to hold up. Again, if tomorrow we go down and test these lows again, I don't think they hold. We got very close, flipping back over again. We got really close here. So that to me is basically a test. It's a touch. So if we go down there again, I wouldn't necessarily look for it to hold. Doesn't mean it can't hold, but it's more on the minor side now. But either way here, we closed below the 50, we touched the 20, we came off of it. It's kind of either way right now. We had a little bit of a rolling top there. If you take this out and you close below this green bar here, then you can start getting concerned, and I think you may look for, a move. There'll be like a short-term trend line right in this area. So right there, that could be a pivot. And then if you lose that, then we can start talking about, okay, well, this pivot needs to hold and this 430 area needs to hold. Otherwise, it's, down to this trend line in that 420 area, which could be obviously a bigger corrective move as we get deeper into the fall. My kind of thought is right now, again, tomorrow could go either way here for bulls. You probably, I think you just want to see a gap and go. I don't really think you want to mess around here. The longer you screw around in this area, the more time the bears can get like a hold of this. So I think you need to kind of slam the door shut. I do think that we can hold up a little bit into OPEX, but we'll see how that works. Again, it's a quad witch, so just be mindful of that going into next week. But we'll see what kind of pattern we get. Definitely, if we have another day like this on Apple, it's going to be very hard for the market to hold up. Again, it should have some support there, though, around 180 if it gets tested tomorrow. But definitely a pretty good slice. And again, this is what happens with those gamma squeezes. You can fade it right back down as quickly as it went up. So when I see them, I definitely am kind of on guard for those moves to be retraced, and that's definitely what we saw here today. Anyways, if we do get through today's low, where I'd expect the Qs to go is 370, and then really kind of down to this green bar low here right around 367. That area would be big support if we got down there, but 370 also should be a short-term level there for the triple Qs. For the Russell 2000, that essentially back tested that 185 area. And again, if we look at the hourly, you can see we kind of struggled to get through this area right around here. And we back tested that today, and then we came off of the lows there. So that did get a little bit of a back test. You definitely don't want to see this really lose that 185 area. That would be kind of a negative for the IWM, and that has come in pretty sharply over the last two sessions. The Dow also coming in pretty sharply as well. A lot of these transports getting it, which we'll talk about in a second. The Dow down 0.5% today. That did close below 345.40. So we did lose that breakup bar from last week on a closing basis on the Dow. Dow is less minor. It's price cap weighted. We don't worry about it as much, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Dow a little bit on the weaker side. You want to take out this pivot. So, but DIA coming in. Semiconductors. Look what they did yesterday. I talked to you guys about this every day since we put in this reversal bar. Look what they did. You see where that closed? 156.58. You know what the high is here? 156.59. That's not a coincidence. In fact, yesterday my closing print here on the SMH originally said 156.60. So that would have technically been a 1 penny breakout, and it got revised after hours. So a market on close, sometimes it gets changed a little bit. It got revised down 2 cents, and it technically closed below that level. I know you may say, well, it doesn't matter. It's 1 cent. No, it matters. They don't make this. This doesn't happen on accident. So they know exactly what they're doing. But it held. So basically, what I'm saying is that level held, and we came down. Now that doesn't mean we can't break up tomorrow and do that, but semiconductor showing a little bit of weakness, right? If you're strong, it shouldn't be that hard to get 1 penny above that bar. But they did come back in. Nvidia took a pretty good hit today, down 3% on the day. Broadcom just does not want to go down, though. That is managing to hold up okay. AMD had a nice test yesterday at that 110 area and came back in. So let's take a look at Intel. Yeah, Intel was green on the day. That still looks pretty strong here. I don't hate that look on Intel. A little short-term overbought, but Intel holding up okay. Maybe a bit of a rotation into some of these more beaten down semis and kind of rotation out of Nvidia and those high flyers potentially. But semiconductors pulling back 1.16. IGV just continues to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 3, 6, 7, 8. 8 days in a row. Again, it looks like we're about to fill that gap. 364.52 and the high. Yeah, so we just filled that gap there. Again, still a little bit of weekly resistance in this area, but you know what? Cloud's holding up, and you got to respect that. It's very strong industry group. Weak industry group, transports, again. So that bear pattern starting to play out. Picture perfect into the 50 and the 20. Rejection. Came a little bit off the lows, but guess what? Volume picking up there too. Crude prices probably not helping here, but transport's not a good sign that they can't bid up here. They are a leading industry group, so always keep an eye on them. We basically got to the 15,250 area. Low is 15,306. Close enough. We'll see if this holds. If it holds, that's a good sign. If not, you can go to 15 though. And my guess is because we've consolidated here, it has the gas to get to 15,000. Again, doesn't mean it won't happen, or doesn't mean it will happen, but this pivot is now a little bit more minor that we have consolidated and put in a bear flag there. So, and we take a look at the jets here. That's a weak chart. CSX was looking at this earlier. Again, same kind of look, bear flag there. Norfolk Southern back at 52-week lows. Union Pacific faded that entire move. Remember that earnings gap. JB Hunt, little bear flag look there. So a lot of these kind of transports definitely on the weaker side. Just respect that. All right. Anyways, all right. Let's get over to interest rates here. So the 2-year continuing higher, another close back above 5%. So 5.029, almost 5.03. I can't see anything wrong with the yield chart here. So it's still holding up well. Market's trying to price in rate cuts next year or a rate pause. This is telling me that's not happening right now. ISM's telling me that's not happening. CPI's next week. Crude's at basically 52-week highs. They're going to have to really cook those books to fix that. But right now, the 2 years holding up, and that's telling me inflation's not going away. 5 years holding up, that's telling me inflation's not going away. This is a strong pattern. 10-year, it's a strong pattern. 30-year, still a very strong pattern. Just keep that in mind. Yields are not backing off. So, anyways, home builders. A little bit of a pause today. Again, it's kind of illegal for the home builders to have more than 2 down days in a row. So I know, I get it. We expect that to be up today. Up 37 cents on the XHB. Pretty good outside move though yesterday, and hourly. Again, this is kind of in the bear camp, right? So big move down early yesterday morning, sideways all day today. So hourly bear flagging, trying to get through this area. If we push through that, then we can start going back down to, I'd probably say at least, 76, 75, we'll call it. Here, we'll just say the green bar low there. Yeah, 76, 75. And then if you take this pivot out, well, then things get a lot more interesting. But again, the home builders have been very strong. I don't want to take anything for granted just yet. ITB is a little bit weaker here, up 86 cents. If this pivot goes, then this can really start to sell. But right now, it's holding up. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt until it tells us otherwise. VNQ a little bit on the weaker side, down 17 cents. Actually, not a terrible day for VNQ. Really, could put in a higher low. If you can bid up tomorrow, again through 83, you can get to 84. If we move down, it's to 78. XLF was definitely weak early, but did come decently off the lows, finishing down just 2 cents. Again, that Berkshire doesn't want to go down, and that's helping out the XLF. If we look at JPM, it did come off the lows, but again, this is still not a pattern of strength here. Again, much like the transports down move, bearish inside bar. Bank of America breaking out of that bear pattern there, pushing down. Wells Fargo came off the lows. Citigroup managed to close green, but still a very weak pattern. And then Goldman, Morgan Stanley also coming off the lows too, but still not patterns of strength there either. So again, be careful with fins here. KRE, again, kind of pattern is this? Right? Inside bar, bear flag, right? So coming back down, you lose this pivot. There's a gap right here, but probably down to $40. So banks still soft. You see the KBE, same thing. That could still hold on to 38. But again, if you lose that pivot, there's a gap, and then it's probably down to 35. Broker dealers here on the weaker side, testing the 50 and the 20, getting a little bit of a bid off that. That can still put in a higher low, though. That's still okay. Crude, just up another 1% casually. No new high. I think it made a light nominal high, 88.08. Yeah, 1 penny new high. Little overbought, little extended, right? Kind of coming into this red bar here. But again, this is what happens when you close above these weekly levels. So crude is very strong. It's basically, not that far off of 52-week highs. And again, that's going to reflect in the CPI. So keep that in your mind going into next week. We pull back, we'll have to see 83.50. And then if, it goes through that, it's down to 77 or so. But, crude's strong, and you should respect it. I wouldn't get in the way of it. I think it's overbought, but I wouldn't get in the way of it on the short side here unless you get some type of a sell signal. XLE, still green despite the tail candle yesterday. I think this still looks top heavy going into that reversal bar, but weekly trend is up. Like, there's no real problems here. Just a little extended here short term. That's all. XOP, same thing, right? Little extended on, kind of overbought here. We only had 2 weeks of consolidation, but closed above that breakdown bar. I got to respect it. So I wouldn't, I can't chase them here, but I wouldn't bet against them either. OIH, this is the only one that looks really top heavy to me. We had a good tail reversal candle yesterday with volume. So for me, it's just kind of like pure greed, right? I've been talking about 370 area. We didn't quite get there. We had the new month roll over, so that this moving average is down sloping, but that's basically the target. It's 364, right? So the high was 359. It's 5 points of upside versus, if we start to pull back again, right? If you lose this pivot, kind of like the gamma squeeze logic, there's no support till 295. So to me, risk reward just doesn't make sense to be long here, unless you're just trailing your stop. But either way, OIH still holding up. Again, I wouldn't bet against it. This is probably the most top heavy one, but it is a little rich here, at least near term. Nat gas pulling back here into this trend line again. We'll see how that reacts tomorrow. Every time this gets oversold ahead of inventories, it bids. So that's what I would expect happens tomorrow here. But again, right into that level, I don't see a ton of downside for it in the near term, or really in the big picture either. Dollar index here, again, green on the day, as you'd expect. ISM up, helping out the dollar. What can you say? It just doesn't want to go down. We're through this pivot again. So dollar is still holding up. This can get to 106, 106.50. Doesn't mean it'll go there in a straight line. There'll be pullbacks, but it's holding up. There's a reason why I talk about those weekly levels all the time. And when you get through them and you close above them on a weekly close, means it probably wants to go higher. Gold here continuing to roll over. Still showing pretty good relative strength, though, with the dollar being as strong as it is. I mean, we're basically just off of 52-week highs. So still holding up, but looking like it wants to roll over more. Let's look at this 1941.70. That's your breakout bar low. We're just barely above that right now, but a close below that would be a bit of a concern, and I think you probably want to go test 1900. So a little bit of weakness there from gold. Silver, again, never was once really convinced that was the move, as you guys probably are aware. It did fill that rollover gap yesterday. We came down pretty sharply. I still think it wants to test 23. Maybe it does it tomorrow, but we'll see there. But that did come back in pretty nicely. Palladium also coming in nicely, looking less and less like this is going to be a WV. It's got to kind of hold right here if it's going to do that. But it did come off the lows a little bit. We'll see. If you take out this pivot, then you're into this zone, which I do like, as you guys know. And then palladium here, a little bit of a secondary test candle. I still think that needs to go lower. Copper looks like that wants to fill the rollover gap there as well. Outside move down. And we close below 378.7. You fill that gap. And then we'll look at around 370 there on the downside. Bitcoin volatility basically dead here. Again, just like it kind of has these volatility spurts, right? So it's like, big thrust and then it just dies. And then you get like a 1 day thrust down, a 1 day thrust up, fake out, big move down, volatility dies. Oh, we're gonna go back up, then right back down. So volatility is dead here. All I can say is the longer that this base is, the weaker that this pivot will get. And the more likely it is we go test 21.5. So nothing's changed there on that front. But yeah, Bitcoin just still stuck in that range and consolidating. All right, lastly, just back over to the spiders. Tomorrow, if we do start to come down, again, I don't expect this pivot to be major. And, I would say a daily close below 442.46, would be a failed breakout there. So that would be a big negative for the market. For bulls, you kind of just want to push up here and obviously get above this area. If you do that, then you can go push to double top, and then that other pivot, which is all the way up there at 462.07. So that's kind of what you're looking for here. And bears here, if you really want to slam the door shut, you take out this low on a weekly close, and then we can start talking about a real correction, a real bigger move to the downside that could take you into the late fall. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow.